So I've been debating on whether to or not to cover this issue that has come up, and that I have done some research and education on, and I am kind of shocked that it still exists, and I am extremely more shocked that it is not discussed more. And it is really interesting because when I've gone down the rabbit hole of looking up on YouTube to try to find information on YouTube and different resources, they're very limited. And the one video I found literally had, I think, only my view on it. It had been up for a while, and the links attached to it no longer worked. So we'll see if this video gets out or not. But the Feris Doctrine that was passed in 1950 by the U.S. Supreme Court basically bars military members from suing the federal government for injuries that arise out of or in the course of military service. Government is not liable for injuries to service members sustained in the performance of their duties. Now, what does that mean? That basically means that no matter what happens to them, they are not eligible to sue. And why is that important? Now, I used to think suing was such an ugly word. You know, good community members and stuff like that do not sue. But what suing or holding somebody accountable, just like with doctors, they can't do malpractice. They have to have licenses. They have to follow a certain procedure, certain protocol. Otherwise, they can be open for a lawsuit. Now, a lawsuit is also a means of accountability. You hit people in the wallet, and a lot of times that fixes the issue. What happens if you sign on a dotted line and you sign your life over to the government to serve for freedom and the rights of the American people, but at the same time you sign, you lose those rights? And by that I mean the ability to hold wrongdoings accountable. So this bill, the Feris Doctrine, applies to everything. And the two things that have come up for me that I think, you know, I'm sure there's even more, but is, you know, medical malpractice in the military. I don't know if you know veterans, but I do, that have received horrendous service at veterans hospitals and while in service. I mean, to the point where even people have lost the wrong limb during surgery. They've had, you know, materials left inside of them because they weren't counted out. If you had a job and you were never held accountable, do you think that you would follow all the steps? Yes, most of us probably would, but there are people that I'm sure we've all worked with that will cut corners. So if you know you have no responsibility and you cannot be held accountable, are you going to be a super anal and like follow through with all that stuff? Probably not. So the fact that they could medically do something wrong to you, literally on American soil, at an American veteran hospital, and you have no legal means to do anything about it. It's kind of scary to me. It's like Russian roulette. The other thing that the Feris Doctrine protects, which to me is mind-boggling, because you have people out there that did this whole Me Too movement, and we talk about rape, and there's all these laws and stuff, and there's, you know, registries and different things. And what's crazy to me is in the military, it is still extremely prevalent that there are these assaults happening and the government is not liable. So you could report being sexually assaulted, and this has happened. I mean, I was in years ago, and I know people that this happened to, where they were sexually assaulted on American base, which is American soil, by a fellow American, and reported it, and it went like they were the ones getting discharged. And they say that basically that's why there's veteran disability now and stuff like that, because veterans now, you get to apply for veteran benefits if they did something wrong to you, whether it was in the hospital or sexual assault or just anything. And they get to dictate and review your case and take as long as they want to decide whether they're going to give you any compensation or not. So the people that wronged you get to evaluate if they wronged you and to what level they wronged you, with a cap of how much they wronged you. It really truly is that simple. And speaking as someone who has gone down the rabbit hole and has informed herself and educated myself on this, I would never in a million years ever allow any of my children to enlist in the military. Well, for one, I don't believe like necessarily that war is the answer. I think there's a lot of other alternatives that we could go for. But the fact that the government has a law that was enacted in 1950, 74 years later, and this could have been overturned by a president, by Congress, by the Supreme Court. It has been brought up to them. There's several different cases where family members of loved ones they've lost due to malpractice and different things, sexual assault victims, where they have brought this and it has been rejected. And everybody wants to pass the buck. And I cannot believe in the United States of America that we have soldiers that protect our rights and liberties, but they do not get the same benefit. I understand if you're overseas and you're at war and things are going to happen, that's part of what you signed up for. But to be on a training base in the United States, working with fellow Americans, and to be wronged, whether it be a doctor that you went to go see for a health, something health related, or if it's a fellow enlistment soldier or whatever you want to call it, and they wrongdo you, and there's no repercussions. And if you're not careful and you try to fight for the harm that's been done to you, you will be just let go, and they can ding your military record. And this happens, people. Do not think that this does not happen. I know so many people that this has happened to. And I'm sure if anybody has been in the military or has known or loved somebody close to them that has been in the military, you probably have a story that can relate on some level to this.